Brothers and sisters, please silence your cell phones and turn your attention to the video screens. Please welcome to the stage, Chaplain of the Baltimore City Fire Department, Reverend Ronald Stewart.
Good morning. Shall we bow? Father God, in Jesus' name, we give thanks for the United States and its government. We hold up in prayer before you and the men and women who are in the position of authority. We pray and intercede for the firefighters, EMS providers, and for those who are in authority over us in any way. We pray that the Spirit of the Lord rest upon them. Your word declares that the blessed is a nation whose God. So we receive your blessing, Father. You are our refuge and our strongholds in time of trouble. High costs, destitution, and deprivation, Lord God, we declare with our mouths today that your people will dwell safely in this land, and we will prosper abundantly. We are more than conquerors through Jesus Christ. We believe that the heart of the leaders is in your hands and that his decision is divinely directed of the Lord. The word of the Lord prevails and grows mightily in the hearts and lives of the people. So we give thanks for this land and the leaders you gave us for him. Jesus is Lord of the United States.
Please stand for the presentation of colors, and please remain standing for the United States Anthem and Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, let's have a rousing round of applause for the Montgomery County Honor Guard, the Washington, D.C. Pipes, and the Brothers Scott Forbes for a great rendition of our national anthem. Thank you very much. It is my high honor to welcome you to our nation's capital and the 2022 Alfred K. Whitehead Legislative Conference. My name is Kevin O'Connor, and I serve as the Assistant to the General President for Governmental Affairs, Strategic Campaigns, and Political Initiatives. I would now ask you to turn your attention to the video screens for an introduction of the IAFF Executive Board and Trustees.
Brothers and sisters, please welcome the Trustees and Executive Board of the International Association of Firefighters. Region 1 Trustee, Alex Forrest, representing Canada. Region 2 Trustee, Mark S. Willett, representing the Eastern United States, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And Region 3 Trustee, Tony Mejia, representing the Western United States, the Canal Zone, and Guam. 1st District Vice President James Slevin, representing New York and New Jersey. 2nd District Vice President Mark Woolbright, representing Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, and Kansas. 3rd District Vice President Jay Colbert, representing Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. 4th District Vice President Andrew Pantelis, representing Maryland, the District of Columbia, Virginia, Delaware, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. 5th District Vice President Thomas Thornburg, representing Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, and South Dakota. 6th District Vice President J. Michael Carter, representing Alberta, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Yukon, and the Northwest Territory. 7th District Vice President Ricky J. Walsh, representing Washington, Montana, Idaho, and Alaska. 8th District Vice President Mark Sanders, representing Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, and Michigan. 9th District Vice President Michael Fernier, representing Colorado, Oregon, Utah, Wyoming, and Nevada. 10th District Vice President Stephen Gilman, representing Arizona, California, New Mexico, Hawaii, and Guam. 11th District Vice President Roy L. Sandy McGee, representing Oklahoma, Texas, and the Canal Zone. 12th District Vice President Walter J. Dix, representing Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and the Caribbean area. 13th District Vice President Fred LeBlanc, representing Ontario and Manitoba. 14th District Vice President Danny Todd, representing Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. 15th District Vice President David Burry, representing Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and Quebec. 16th District Vice President James B. Johnson, representing all federal firefighters of the United States and Canada. General Secretary-Treasurer of the IAFF, Frank V. Lima, and the General President of the International Association of Firefighters, Edward A. Kelly. Brothers and sisters, your IAFF trustees and executive board.
Now, please join me in welcoming the Executive Vice President of Washington, D.C., Local 36, a charter local of this great international and the place where our union was founded, Joe Paparello, to give you welcoming from his local and to the District of Columbia. Joe?
Good morning, General President Kelly, General Secretary Treasurer Lima, the Executive Board, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to D.C. It has been way too long. I am Joe Paparello, Executive Vice President of the District of Columbia Firefighters Association, Local 36. On behalf of our President, Dabney Hudson, and the 2,000 men and women that make up our great local, I welcome you to your nation's capital, our city, our home, Washington, D.C. Please join me in thanking the D.C. Fire Department Emerald Society Pipes and Drums for their performance. They proudly represent our membership with honor and distinction at many events throughout the year here in D.C., across the country, and even overseas. We appreciate them making today a priority during their busy March season. D.C. is more than politics, national landmarks, and monuments. We are a thriving city, 69 square miles of land, home to over 700,000 residents, excellent sports teams, and the Wizards, great entertainment, an international food scene, and most importantly, strong unions. I am proud to stand in front of you this morning as we begin this legislative conference, advancing the collective interests of our great union and our members. It is a privilege to be a part of the IAFF, a group of professionals committed to selfless service. You're an exceptional group of leaders who relentlessly move our profession forward based on the principles of service, honor, and dedication. The union movement is the source of power for the working families in our communities. It is the foundation behind the middle class. The IAFF, our union, gives firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics a strong voice on the job and with our politicians. We are not the largest union, but there is no question we are one of the most powerful unions, standing shoulder to shoulder with the giants. You may not have been here in DC lobbying at the Capitol the last few years, but that does not mean you haven't been working to advance your issues at home. Without a doubt, your representatives have felt your presence. Today, however, you are on their turf here at the Capitol building and their DC offices. You may be one member or a part of a small team that traveled across the country to be here, but do not forget you are here with your brothers and sisters from across the IAFF. We have your back. We will make our presence known. We will knock on their doors, have the hard conversations, and advance our mission no matter where they do their work. As you work towards our legislative goals, make sure you take the time to enjoy our city and enjoy networking and discussing the job with your brothers and sisters. The relationships you build here will cultivate, and your knowledge will grow and help you build your skill set to protect your members back home. I urge you to visit any of our national memorials where we honor our fellow citizens who did their part to make America the great nation we are today. A jog on the mall or a walk around the Capitol can inspire the early birds. Visiting the Vietnam Wall and the Lincoln Memorial at sunset provides an iconic DC experience. I encourage you to stop by the local 36 Hospitality Night for solidarity, and of course, some appetizers and beverages. It is tonight at the Union Pub, located 2 blocks east of the hotel, an easy walk. Additional information about the event can be found on our flyer at our information desk across the hall. We have also arranged for the DC Fire and EMS Museum to be open for you. Its location is across the street at Engine Company 3, the Capitol Protectors. It is filled with some great history, and we hope you find time to make a short visit. If we can assist you during your stay in any way, please visit our booth or stop one of us in the hallway. We are so proud to host this great event and welcome you all to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, we are back. After weathering the COVID pandemic, the theme of this year's conference is IAFF Back on the Hill. We are truly back. While that's certainly important that we're here in Washington, D.C., what's really more important is that all of you, our leadership, our affiliate leadership, are back on the Hill in your respective state capitals. You're back lobbying your city and town councils and your mayors and city managers across the country, because that's where the rubber truly meets the road and our business gets done. We are here to conduct the business of our members and advance the political and legislative agenda of this great union. Since we last met in Washington, D.C., we have a new president. We have a new president at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and we have a new president at 1750 New York Avenue. Make no mistake, President Joe Biden is a longtime friend and champion of professional firefighters. In fact, our General President Kelly was with the president in a small private group of other general presidents this past weekend, advocating tenaciously on our issues, trying to make progress on collective bargaining, protecting our federal brothers and sisters, and getting more robust funding for our marquee grant programs, SAFER and AFG, and pushing our real initiative to battle our real epidemic, the epidemic of firefighters everywhere, and that is occupational cancer. This week, the torch is being passed to each of you. Tomorrow, it will be your job to lobby your senators and representatives and their respective staffs on Capitol Hill. For almost 4 decades, this union has brought our affiliate leadership to Capitol Hill to advance our issues. Today and tomorrow, we are back on the Hill. Our representatives and senators are going to see our people, and they're going to hear our voices, and you will make them heard. Both the House and Senate are in session this week. That's a real plus, because for some of the veterans of this conference, you'll know that you really can't control the congressional calendar, and many times we've come here and neither house has been in session. So you will have a real opportunity. Tomorrow, most importantly, at 11 o'clock, we will gather for an event on the Hill to advance our national collective bargaining proposal. This has been a priority of our organization since 1994, and all 16 districts have stood in unity to make sure that each and every firefighter has collective bargaining rights. We want to see every one of you there unless you have a conflicting meeting with one of your representatives or staff. Our mission is to make our voices heard for our members without bargaining rights in the 18 states that do not afford those rights to our members. Our goal is to garner 218, which is a majority of the House of Representatives, 218 co-sponsors on the bill, H.R. 2586, to begin the process of getting the bill marked up and passed through the House of Representatives. Our co-sponsorship right now is approximately 190, so we have a ways to go. We have a lot of work to do. Let me do an internal little check. How many of you here, this is your first IAFF legislative conference? Please stand up. Change is truly in the air. It looks to me like probably about 30% of you, it's the first time. Let's have a round of applause for our first time. Well, whether this is your first time or you're a seasoned veteran, this conference will be an eye-opener and full of surprises. The IAFF Legislative Conference traditionally has served a dual purpose. It serves both as an educational forum and, most importantly, as a venue to lobby our respective members of Congress and their staff. One of the areas discussed in the IAFF transition last year was that this conference cut back on the multitude of political speeches and spend more time on issue education, skill building, and education. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do this year. We're going to make that change. Yes, we will have plenty of political heavyweights speaking today. We will have folks from both parties, as has been our tradition. The IAFF is really proud to be probably one of the most bipartisan unions operating in this city, and we take great pride in that. So we will have representatives from the GOP and the Democratic Party. We'll be bicameral. We'll have leadership from both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. We will also have a very strong Democratic governor who's been an ally of our firefighters in the state of Illinois, and as importantly, a Republican Speaker of the House from North Carolina that led the way to our North Carolina firefighters getting cancer coverage. But as importantly, our governmental affairs staff is going to provide you with a thorough briefing and education on our key issues. You will be taught the specifics of our key legislation and how best to lobby each and every one of those issues, because that's really what is going to matter here this week. In the afternoon, we're going to shift our focus away from the legislative portion of this conference and talk a little bit about politics. Our political team will teach you about waging a successful referendum campaign and present a panel on best practices and examples of successful stories of the state and local level, highlighting the tools and resources of our political and strategic campaigns operation. But let's face it, as important as our federal efforts are, it's the state capitals and local government where you really get the business done, where you deliver the wages and benefits, where you deliver the laws that protect our firefighters from presumption and other cancers. Finally, we will end today's discussion with an evaluation of the 2022 midterm elections. Obviously, that is of great interest to each and every one of us. Who runs Congress next year is going to play a major role in our legislative agenda and initiatives. So we're going to talk about that, bringing experts in from both parties to have that conversation. Beyond the educational component, we will provide you with instruction and give you some successful techniques on lobbying and conveying the importance and threats that our members are facing. Brothers and sisters, those skills aren't just for tomorrow and Wednesday on Capitol Hill. They are truly transportable. Those same techniques can be used to lobby in your respective state capitals or before your town councils to advance our issues at every level of governance. Tomorrow, after a hearty breakfast right here in this room, you will put on your lobbying hats and join our grassroots army of over 550 professional firefighters from across the nation as you storm Capitol Hill and be the voice of this IAFF and our 326,000 active and retired members from each of the nation's 435 congressional districts, which also is a major advantage for our union. That, yes, there are those unions who are a little bit bigger, but we have representation in every single congressional district in this country, and that's something that we have to use to our advantage. Remember, you are our frontline soldiers, our citizen lobbyists, and it's you that makes the program successful. We're proud of what happens in Washington, D.C. with our staffs. We work very hard, but it truly is each and every one of you and what you do back at home that makes our program successful. But I must also remind you that when you return home, you have to keep this work going. It's not enough just to come here for a couple days a year. You have to continue your lobbying. You have to make sure if you can't see that congressman today, you track them down at home and have a conversation. Sometimes that's an easier way of getting it done. But I'll also say that while educating our elected officials and their staff is important, what's more important is that we actually educate our membership, our fellow firefighters, the people that we run into fires with, that we share our lodging and food with. They too have to become our ambassadors. If we can't get the buy-in of our membership, we're doing something wrong. We are an issues-oriented union, and it's our responsibility to educate our people. And that is truly a 365-day-a-year job. This IAFF is still one of just a handful of unions that are welcome in the offices of both Democrats and Republicans, and that access is our advantage. We need to use it. Build relationships on both sides of the aisle. If a member of Congress can't be with you on one issue, press them hard to be with us on another issue. Keep pressing them, and it becomes harder to say no. We are not pro-Democrat. We are not pro-Republican. We are pro-firefighter. This union has no permanent friends, nor do we have any permanent enemies. What we have are permanent issues. At the end of the day, our political and legislative mission can be summarized in 4 words: putting firefighters first. Enjoy the conference, stay focused, and good luck on your lobbying. Now, it is really my pleasure and honor to introduce for the first time at our annual legislative conference, to introduce our leader, our new general president. Ed Kelly is a firefighter through and through. His dad was a Boston Jake, as are his brothers. After proudly serving in the United States Air Force as a firefighter, he realized his childhood dream on getting on the job in Boston. He joined the department in 1997 and became a truckie. The GP followed in his dad's footsteps and quickly became active in Local 718 and ascended to the presidency, where he successfully battled an entrenched anti-union, anti-firefighter mayor successfully. He won his spurs and developed a reputation for honesty, hard work, and most importantly, guts. He then became president of Massachusetts Professional Firefighters in 2011. In that role, he proved that he could work on both sides of the aisle, building successful legislative and political coalitions. He proudly held that position until his rise to our General Secretary-Treasurer in 2016, where he worked tenaciously to establish greater transparency and fiscal prudence. In 2021, he was elected our union's general president. But first and foremost, he remains a Jake. In spite of the power and prestige of his office, he still finds time to be Edzo and pull a shift on Ladder 17, Brothers and sisters, our General President, please welcome Ed Kelly.
Kev, thanks, brother. Appreciate it, man. Great job. All right, that's enough. Kevin, thank you, and thank you for coming back and lending your talents, wisdom, energy, and experience up on the Hill to help us move our agenda, which is what we're all here for. And Joe Papp did a great job. Kind of messed up a little bit. He said, you know, all the great sports teams in D.C. and the Wizards, he must have forgotten. Or maybe he's considering the team formerly known as the Redskins being over in Baltimore, being over in Maryland doesn't count. But he did a great job. But I want to single out Scotty Forbes, our brother that sang the anthem. And, you know, when you watch the news, yeah, right on, Scotty. You know, we watch the news right now, it's unnerving, you know. See what's going on in Ukraine? The threats on the world stage, our role as a country, as a world leader, what that means for us, for our kids. When I hear that anthem, it's got a little stronger meaning for me today. And I thank Scotty, and I thank him for leading us this morning. And thanks to the Pipes and Drums from D.C. for coming in. Sure we'll hear you guys again tonight. And the Montgomery County Color Guard for giving us our colors, getting us started in the right direction. And I especially want to thank all of our incredible staff at the IAFF that helped to build this program. And get us where we are today. You know, we have a busy couple of days. We have a lot going on. Luckily for us, for those of you that don't know, haven't been around in a little bit of a while, we have to plan these years in advance. You have to get a hotel contract signed, and you never really know if Congress is actually going to be in session when you pick the dates of your legislative conference. We're lucky. They're all here. They're all here this year. We have work to do. And I'd also like to just single out one friend of mine that's here this morning, that after 41 years, 39 of them as an elected IAFF official, is getting paroled. Tommy Hannafy, the president of the Indiana Professional Firefighters, is not seeking re-election, taking a well-deserved retirement. Tommy, I know you're out there somewhere. I can't see anything with these bright lights, but thanks, brother. God bless you. So we've got a lot of very powerful people coming in to speak to us this morning. We're going to hear from some Dems, some Republicans, all decision makers. And it bears repeating, Kevin just said it, we don't have Republican and Democratic issues, we have firefighter issues, period. We made some changes to the format this year. We want to kind of bring in some educational pieces on the successes and strategies that we've had throughout different campaigns in locals, states, and we're going to have some panels up here of IAFF affiliate leaders who actually ran those campaigns. And tomorrow we're going to head over to the Capitol, joined by some key political friends and congressional allies for all of our voices to be heard over there. So it's going to be an exciting couple days. We've got a lot going on, and I appreciate all of you taking the time out of your lives, away from your families, to devote your talents and energies to coming here to D.C., to learn and getting over there and making sure we're heard. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard me say the mission of the IAFF starts in front of a church, and we work backwards from there. And, you know, when you say things, they have different meanings to everybody. What does it mean to say that our mission starts in front of a church when we work backwards? Let's look up the road 45 minutes in Baltimore. where we had 3 of our members, Paul Buttram, Kelsey Sadler, and Kenny Lacayo, who were killed in an abandoned building. There was roaring extended into the exposures with reports of people trapped. In a city that has literally tens of thousands of abandoned buildings that no one's paid taxes on, most of which have been exposed to the elements for decades, that are a fire trap for us, a death trap. How do we solve the puzzle of a city that's, for all intents and purposes, not well financed, to tackle a project like eliminating the threat that abandoned buildings pose to the kids, to the public, but certainly to us? The solution to that problem is politics. We've got to find a way to come up with a strategy. We have to be successful politically. You look out in Cali, in Stockton, our brothers and sisters pulled up to a 18-wheeler tractor trailer fully involved, exposing a warehouse. They went to the door, started forcing the door to check for extension. The guy that was renting the place, who had been getting broken into by the homeless, shot through the door, killed our captain, Max Fortuna. Now, Cali has done a good job fighting for death benefits, something we don't want, but we're glad we have it for our families. Gives us some peace of mind. But every case shows a little something different that needs to be done. And in the case of our brother Max Fortuna, his 22-year-old child or kid is still in school, not working, pursuing a degree, and doesn't have health care benefits. He had it when his father was alive, but the way the death benefit's structured in Cali, he lost his health insurance. It's a problem. How do we solve it? Whose problem is that? It's ours. That's our job. It's part of what we're supposed to do for each other, is take care of our families if we get killed. What's the solution to that? It's all political. Go down to San Antonio, where just last Tuesday, our brother Shawty Henshaw was buried. He died from job-related cancer. When you're in a pine box in front of a church getting walked in, it doesn't matter what got you there. What matters is, how's your family going to land with you gone? In Texas, they have protections for our brothers and sisters that are diagnosed with job-related cancer. It's not always the case, and the benefits vary from state to state, and sometimes city to city. You go down to Asheville, North Carolina, where our brother Will Willis was diagnosed with cancer, an aggressive cancer, at 31 years old, had 4 kids under 10, fought hard. And when he died, there was zero that the state or city did for a firefighter diagnosed with cancer. And God bless him, he didn't want to spend any of his kids' money, whatever he had, he wanted his wife to have for his kids. This is a true story. His cousin that was on the job, at Will's direction, built a pine box, and when Will died, put him in the pine box, put him in the back of his pickup truck, and drove him up on a hill and buried him. That was in 2018, not 1918. But the solution to that problem, which it is political. In the leadership in North Carolina, the tobacco state, took on the cancer fight hard, working on both sides of the aisle, and successfully passed their first cancer protection for our members last spring. You wouldn't think cancer is political, but it is. Kevin mentioned that I had an opportunity to go up with about 25 or 30 other general presidents to have a closed session with the President of the United States, his senior advisors, as well as the Secretary of Labor. And he spoke for an hour, no notes. He was incredible, his command of the issues. And one of the things he committed to was making cancer a center focus of his administration, of his tenure as President of the United States. And, cancer's in all, every one of our families have been impacted by cancer. And I had an opportunity. I knew we weren't all going to be able to ask questions, but I got my hand up, and after he was done speaking, I got recognized, and I said to him, Mr. President, first off, thank you for making cancer a priority. And I said, for us, every union's job is to protect their members, but our union in particular, our mission starts in front of a church, and we work backwards. And when you look at that, cancer is the #1 killer of firefighters. And one of the problems we have is that every doctor that knows anything about firefighters and cancer would tell you we need to get early cancer screening, early detection. Except our healthcare plans, and he caught it right away. He was finishing my sentence. Our healthcare plans don't give us that access in most cases. We need access to the most cutting-edge, state-of-the-art cancer screenings that we can get our hands on. That's one piece of the puzzle for us. And then I told him, I thanked him actually, and I said, I also want to thank you because your administration worked with us to get $95 million put into the Build Back Better bill that would help design or pay for the redesign of the next generation of PPE and replace all of our existing PPE, which we've come to prove scientifically is loaded with toxic carcinogens that we are being re-exposed to needlessly every time we go out the door. And he stopped me right there and he said, listen, we can't wait on that. That has to be a priority. And then he said, I promise you, we're going to make that a priority. And, we were the first union to endorse Joe Biden back in 2018. And for us, he's been incredible. The infrastructure bill, which isn't necessarily translated to us, we are getting our hazmat money doubled in that infrastructure bill, so we're able to pump out more training. But for us, historically, a good measuring stick for firefighters is if there's tower cranes flying in the cities. If the trades are working, they're usually not coming after our pensions. If the trades are working, we're usually not laying off and demoting and closing companies. We're doing all right now. I mean, we went through the COVID economic downturn, and I can tell you in my city, just the fact that the airport was shut down, which is within our city limits, which is a massive revenue source for the city, just on the fuel tax for airplanes, never mind getting into restaurant tax, hotel tax that just disappeared. The American Rescue Plan put $350 billion into cities and towns, and we just put on the largest class in the history of our city, 90 probies. One of our challenges in the fire service right now is recruiting. That was never an issue. Getting on the fire was like hitting the lottery. Now one of our challenges is forced overtime. Our members, they don't have the bodies to send them home. Those are problems. I'm not downplaying them. But I prefer the problem of too much overtime to the problem of layoffs, company closings, firehouse closings. Also in that APA bill, it didn't directly impact our pensions, who by and large mostly are pretty solvent, but they did a pension bailout for a lot of the Taft-Hartley pensions that were in the tubes, where people that worked their whole lives through no fault of their own got their pensions, in some cases, cut by 50%. And not only are they making them whole, bringing them back up to 100%, they're actually getting retro checks. It's pretty amazing. So everything we do is political, whether we like it or not. Politicians sign our checks every week, or every other week if you're on a bi-weekly system. One other thing that Joe Biden did since he's been in the last year, just like we talked about Max Fortuna's kid, little loophole that lost his health care at 22 years old. We're going to fix that. Our PSOB benefit, our public safety officer benefit, which Joe Biden helped craft when he was a senator, still had some holes in it. If you got killed as a cadet or a probie, you weren't covered. If your significant other was pregnant when you got killed, that kid didn't get any benefits when they were born. We fixed that. Joe Biden fixed it, signed it into law, and also extended our COVID PSOB benefit for a couple of years. So any of our members that die of COVID are covered. Kevin talked about it. There's no off season in politics. How we play in the off season down that little league field matters when you bump into an elected official. We never get to lay down. We always have to be on our game. You know, we talk about how we punch above our weight class. We got 295,000 members in the U.S. Hey, put that in perspective. We're smaller than Cincinnati. Yet, we have a voice in a brand that projects us above our weight class. And our brand was hard-earned. It was earned by the sacrifice of those that came before us that set the standard for what sacrifice is, which is what defines our brand. We're also, it doesn't hurt, we're pretty much in every town in this country with a blinking light. We're also the kids that, by and large, grew up in the neighborhood, probably played ball or something at the local high school, maybe went in the service, came back and got on the fire department. We're the people that show up when someone's elderly mother falls, or there's an emergency, a tragedy, or a fire. We're the people that show up and leave whatever it is better than we found it. In some cases, die trying. You know, politics matters, bottom line for us. It defines the safety in the fire ground, how many people we're going to have, what staffing looks like. It defines our benefits. If we get killed, how our families are treated. If you get sick, how you're still going to make the mortgage. It's all defined by politics. Our lives literally depend on politics. And I'll tell you a story. On January 9, 2009, we had a ladder truck in Boston that lost its brakes returning from a medical call at the top of a hill. And as they had to do about a 5 or 6 point turn to get out of where they were, to turn down the hill. And when they started down the hill, the kid driving realized he didn't have brakes, and they were college kids walking up both sides of the hill with parked cars. So if he veered into parked cars, He would have pushed them right into pedestrians. By the time they hit the bottom of that hill, they were doing 68 miles an hour. We know because the accident reconstruction told us. They crossed a street that had 2 lanes of traffic going in and out and 2 trolley tracks going in and out. It was about 2:30 in the afternoon, which is school bus time on that street. And by the grace of God, and with the lieutenant in the front street leaning on the federal siren, they crossed Huntington Avenue. Luckily, nobody was coming. Blew through 2 parked cars, blew through a brick wall, blew through a brick wall of the first floor of a high-rise that housed a daycare center. They literally crashed into a daycare center. And by the grace of God, the tragedy that unfolded that day was not as bad as it could have been. But for us, we lost a lieutenant in the front seat, Kevin Kelly. Now, what matters in this story for today is that politics was the devil there that day. We were in a city where that ladder truck, it wasn't the first time that ladder truck lost its brakes on that street. 10 days before it, they were at a fire in Brighton. Ladder 23 lost its brakes on the street parallel to that. We were driving around with steering wheels coming off in our hands. We were in trucks that were older than the kids driving them. A lot of nightmare stories. We had a spare piece with a bench. The officer had to have a closet rake to pull the gas pedal up when the driver was driving because it stuck to the ground. That was in a city that was finishing every fiscal year with surpluses in the tens of millions of dollars. It wasn't that they couldn't afford to maintain our apparatus or buy new ones. It was that they chose not to. We were in a political struggle where they used their power and shut the spigot off, got rid of our maintenance, stopped buying apparatus. And it resulted in 3 daughters not having their father to walk them down the aisle when they got married. So when I tell you politics matters, that our lives depend on it, that is real. That is real as it gets. And this year, we lost a giant who loved the IAFF and constantly fought to make it better, change the status quo. He was a union member through and through. He sought not to enrich himself, but to make life richer for the firefighters of the IAFF. Doing all that while making sure he was protecting them in their lives. And this conference is named after him. Not because he celebrated one party or one victory, but because he prodded, cajoled, and fought with, and befriended politicians on both sides of the aisle to get them to do the right thing by us. There was no gray area with Al. Right was right, period. Al Whitehead could be scrappy, pugnacious, but he was driven. And he also cared deeply about the IAFF and its members. Right now, we're going to hear from IAFF Local 1014, retired LA County Fire Captain, our brother, and Al's son, Kenny Whitehead, to tell us a few things that we may not know about Al. Turn it over to Kenny. Thank you, everybody.
Before my dad, Alfred K. Whitehead, began his 12 years of service as the IAFF General President, he was General Secretary Treasurer of our IAFF. Born in California, Al, as he was known, grew up in Los Angeles County. At the age of 15, he worried World War II would end before he got a chance to serve our country, so he altered his birth certificate and joined the Merchant Marines. He paid his dues and got his first Union card. When his seafarer brothers went on strike, my dad refused to scab or cross a picket line. After the war, he took union jobs as an apprentice carpenter, a railroad brakeman, and an IBEW utility lineman, but his dream was to get on the fire department. The pay back then was $330 a month for a 72-hour work week, and it had a pension. Once on the job, he began to work in busy houses. If fighting fires was his first love, then politics was a close second. He got involved in Local 1014 right away. Not content with status quo, he committed to becoming a first vice president for the Los Angeles County Firefighters, took on the 1937 Retirement Act, and won better pension benefits for our members. In 1970, the membership elected him local president of 1014, and he also ran for the IAFF Western Trustee. With political change in the air, my dad lobbied then California Governor Jerry Brown to help win the first firefighter presumptive cancer laws in the country. He established Local 1014's Political Action Committee because he was often fond of saying, "Money is the mother's milk of politics." A firefighter and a maverick, in 1982, he captured the post of IAFF General Secretary Treasurer with a platform to put the IAFF on more secure financial ground. He won re-election in 1984 and 86. Then at the Miami Convention in 1988, he gambled and ran for IAFF president. It was the first time in the 70-year history of our union that a secretary treasurer successfully ran and defeated an incumbent president. It was also the first time an IAFF president was elected from the West Coast. He began a top-down restructuring of the IAFF to serve the members. Then, early in his presidency, a tragic explosion in Kansas City killed 6 firefighters.
I went to a wake of one of our firefighters who died. I talked to his father, and he said to me, "Don't let this be for nothing. To you, sir, to all of the families, I promise you, on behalf of the 175,000 men and women firefighters that make up our international, we will do something about it, and their deaths won't be for nothing."
From then on, Dad reminded elected officials that the IAFF members just didn't die in the line of duty, they were killed in the line of duty. He strengthened the legislative and political arm of the IAFF with financial muscle to push for firefighter issues. He created solutions to problems like the 2 in and 2 out to aggressively confront minimum staffing. He was not afraid to take on anyone, whether a major corporation replacing the IAFF members with scabs or well-financed lobbyists for the chemical industry. On his watch, the IAFF grew 35% in 12 years. Members re-elected him by acclamation in 1992 and again in 1996, where in the absence of the chaplain, he led the morning prayer.
Bless us in our deliberations. Let's don't mess with each other. Come out of here together. Amen.
Dad was proud of this union, and he gave his time and energy to making the IAFF bolder and to bring a brighter future to our brothers and sisters. He was fond of saying, there were 2 kinds of people in the world, givers and takers. For the most part, firefighters were givers, he'd say. He was one of those firefighters. He was a giver and humbled to have the IAFF name the Alfred K. Whitehead Legislative Conference in his honor.